Welcome to CivilNet. We have a very special guest with a very special format here today at CivilNet. I will be talking to Ambassador Pyotr Switalski. He is the head of the European Union delegation in Armenia. Ambassador, thank you for coming to CivilNet.
Thank you for the invitation.
You have been in Armenia now for just under 2 months in your new position as the head of delegation. I want to go back a little bit, if we may, to 2013. After 3 years of intense negotiations with the European Union, the Republic of Armenia opted not to sign the association agreement and the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement that was part of that accord. In September of 2013, in a very sort of sudden news, we heard that President Serge Sarkisyan had instead decided to join the Russian-led customs union, which has now morphed into the Eurasian Economic Union. This was followed by the Vilnius summit, where Ukraine also did not sign, Armenia did not provide its signature, and then of course we had the events in Ukraine. Now, looking back, what do you think was the greatest lesson from 2013?
I'm in the privileged position that I can focus my activities on the future. So I have a clear target. We want to open a new chapter in our relations with Armenia. We will soon start negotiations on a new overarching agreement, which I hope will help us to promote the relations between the European Union and Armenia to a new level. It is always a sovereign choice of a country what kind of relationship it wants to build with the European Union. The European Union is open to have very close, very good relations with all its neighbors, in particular neighbors which are part of Europe, like Armenia. It was the sovereign choice of Armenia to start negotiations on deep and comprehensive trade agreement. And we took up this readiness in good faith. My colleagues were displaying a lot of efforts, energy to work out a good agreement. Contrary to what some journalists even in Armenia say, nobody imposed on Armenia the format of an association agreement. It was the choice of Armenia. Armenia, at the last moment before the Vilnius summit, changed its position. It was quite surprising for many, but we respected the choice because it's always the sovereign choice of our partner. So now we are in a new situation and we are looking forward to a new format, a new formula of the agreement, and I hope as declared by the leaders of Armenia, we will have it soon and we will have it with the right content.
Mm-hmm. Well, before moving forward, let me ask one more question about the past. Did it then force or compel EU policymakers to look at the post-Soviet space in a different way as opposed to one bloc? I remember very clearly how shocked we were with the events that transpired. And I remember a journalist, I believe he was a Dutch journalist, was here and he said, you know, Europe is in shock. And I said, well, I'm in shock that Europe is in shock. I mean, did it in fact make you think and say, well, okay, perhaps each country has its own specific economic, political, social, perhaps military security issues?
The diversification of the post-Soviet space was visible and clear before the Vilnius summit. There was no illusion about it, because if you take the countries forming the so-called post-Soviet space, each of them enjoyed different status in its relations with the European Union. For instance, Russia didn't want to be put into the format of Eastern Partnership. It wanted a special partnership relation with the European Union, and that was respected by the European Union. Relations with Belarus were very difficult, and as you know, Belarus was subject to sanctions adopted by the European Union. So it had a different position vis-à-vis the European Union than some other post-Soviet countries. Even in the region, if you take the position of Azerbaijan, before Vilnius, Azerbaijan declared that they were not interested in having association agreement with the European Union. And again, this declaration was taken, with respect. No negotiations on an association agreement were conducted. So the plurality of the post-Soviet space was clear even before the Vilnius. Now the new situation after the Vilnius summit is definitely the following. We have 3 countries which decided to move along the association path. The association path means that the philosophy is approximation. They want to move closer to the European Union. They want to adopt the standards, the regulations, and the technical even parameters that is applied in the European Union. Definitely, their philosophy is different from the philosophy of some other post-Soviet states.
Certainly, but you're talking about the countries in question. I'm asking about EU policy, how the EU approached those countries. And now, for example, so after the Vilnius summit, after Armenia made its decision, and in January 2015, it became a member state in the Eurasian Economic Union. And now, just earlier this month, the European Commission said that we now have a new political, economic, overarching, as you said, accord between Armenia and the European Union. It is a less ambitious document than the association agreement. Obviously, while it does have economic components, it's certainly not in the depth, or Armenia cannot cut a free trade deal with another bloc or country now that it is a member of the EU. My question to you is, why is Europe still interested?
The answer is very obvious. Europe is very interested in having the best possible relations, in particular with its neighbors. I mean, for any country in the world, the relations with neighbors are of primary importance. If you had good relations with your neighbors, you can sleep, quietly and peacefully, focusing on your priorities, political priorities. So that's natural. As you know, now the European Union is reviewing its neighborhood policy, and 2 important principles will be taken into consideration. One is diversification, and the second very important principle is ownership of our partners. The European Union wants to give our partners a bigger say in the shaping of the relations. So Armenia is not only part of the neighborhood, Armenia is part of Europe. And this makes the relations between the European Union and Armenia additionally important, because Armenia is one of the cradles of the European civilization. Armenians are, per definition, part of the European culture, European mindset, European values, and therefore, for the European Union, the European Union is embodying a very deep meaning of European identity. Relations with any country which is so close to us, to our identity, is very important. Even if the country is small, even if the country is located quite far away from the borders of the European Union, nevertheless, it's important. And as you all know, Armenians constitute a very big diaspora in European countries, in many European countries, in France, but also in Poland. And they stay there for centuries. They practice their religion, they preserve their language. So therefore, the answer is very obvious, because it is not about pursuing a particular interest. Armenia doesn't have oil, gas. It's not located in a crossroads, important for strategic reasons. It's quite small, let's be frank. Therefore, there is no hidden agenda in the relations between the European Union and Armenia. European Union is not seeking any particular interest here. It's simply the expression of a deep philosophy that we are part of a European family, bigger European family.
Okay, very well. Then moving forward, how confident are you that this new agreement, however it, whatever final form it takes, and I must say that the Armenian government, Armenian authorities have been very keen to maintain their relationship with Europe, not to cut off all sort of avenues. But do you see any potential stumbling blocks in the future in terms of Russia's very, very predominant presence and in Armenia and in the region?
As far as the agreement is concerned, I think that since we were able in the past, before Vilnius, to negotiate quite an ambitious contents, both in the political and economic and trade sense, that what we already agreed upon will be respected. In the sense that I hope that the negotiations will be quite smooth. And also because we did what is called scooping exercise. I mean, we looked at the pre-Vilnius agreement and we identified areas which are applicable and areas which are not applicable because they do not reflect the new philosophy of the agreement. And in particular, the trade aspects, because Armenia being now part of the Euro-Asian Economic Union will be functioning in a new trade, so say, regime. So I hope that we will have quite smooth and fruitful negotiations. It's difficult now to predict precisely the outcome or the timing of the conclusion. We will see. I hope this year we will have the first round of the negotiations, and this first round will show us how we should adjust our hopes and expectations. Now the realities of the post-Soviet space, integration in the post-Soviet space, the European Union respects sovereign choices of its partners. Therefore, as long as it's sovereign, as long as it's democratically approved, we will be working on the basis of the realities. Of course, now we understand that there are tensions between the European Union and Russia in particular, which may complicate the picture concerning the neighborhood policy of the European Union, concerning Eastern Partnership, etc. But we do not want to test loyalties. That's not the purpose of the European Union. We simply respect the choices. In the long term, I believe that the difficulties, the tensions will be overcome because strategically the European Union and Russia will have to restore good and constructive relations on the basis of common values, because that's the strategic necessity. The world is complicated enough, challenges are quite big, not only for the European Union, but for Russia and for other countries. And it's quite natural that being part of the bigger European family from Portugal to Russia, we have to stick together. And I hope this will be the prevailing spirit, without, of course, underestimating the differences, the difficulties, and even tensions.
Just picking up on that, and as a final question, in terms of EU-Russia relations and the importance of that, not only for the EU and for Russia, but for the region and for the world. There was a study, I believe it was out of LSC, saying that this new agreement between EU and Armenia could serve as a test case, perhaps, for EU and EU relations. Do you find any merit in that?
Test case for what?
To improve relations, to see how small, as you said, strategically perhaps unimportant country like Armenia.
I didn't say this.
Well, who has now joined a new formulation of an economic and political union on the borders, on the doorsteps of the EU, who also wants to maintain relations with Europe, who also sees itself, I think, as you said, as perhaps the cradle of European civilization, how the EU and the EU can balance their relations using Armenia as a test case?
Armenia, in a sense, can be a test case that what matters in the relations between the European Union and other Eastern European partners is the factor of values. The European Union attaches big importance to the common definition of values. So if you ask me how do I see the future of relations between the European Union and Armenia, my answer is very simple. If Armenia is pursuing its path of reforms, modernization, if democracy is stronger, if basic political freedoms in Armenia is stronger, if corruption is effectively eradicated, if freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, all basic freedoms are respected, if the market economy is functioning on the basis of fair principles, if the rule of law is strong, then my answer, what could be the future of relations between the European Union and Armenia, is they will be good, they will be strong, irrespective of what kind of alliances Armenia will join, economic alliances, political alliances, or military alliances. Because this question, this factor of values, will constitute such a strong basis that we will feel we are the same family. And in the family, even if we disagree, we understand that we belong to each other and we have to live friendly lives. So it's all up to this. It's difficult sometimes, as we can know. But if you ask me, I see a lot of potential here. Armenia is a country of talent. Armenia is a country of big potential, intellectual potential, entrepreneurship, all the other qualities that offer good hopes for the future. And our role is here simply to help. There is no, hidden agenda. The European Union simply wants to help Armenia on its path of modernization. And if you go on this path, you Armenians, your government, then the future of our relations will be very bright.
Well, on that positive note, and looking toward the future and very bright relations, thank you so much, Ambassador.
My pleasure, always.
I'd like to remind our viewers that my guest was Ambassador Pyotr Subotalsky. He is the head of the European Union delegation here in Armenia. Keep following CivilNet.